Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching the Boom Political Vigilante, the People's Channel, folks. You guys make this happen. I don't get money from a billionaire, big companies, or anything like that. I don't sell out to right-wing clicks. I don't have a billionaire have me push an agenda because it helps that billionaire's agenda. I don't do that stuff, folks. One of the things, the only agenda that I push is the truth and what I believe. You might not agree with me, but this is what I believe. Nobody's telling me otherwise. So we've been covering the Epstein story for, this is now 4 years. July of 2019 is when we really started covering it. And one of the things we uncovered, which we realized, was how Epstein would blackmail people, right? We showed you how one of the things he would do is invite wealthy, powerful men, typically to parties, some women, but mainly men, to parties. And his butler would say, "Would you like a massage from a beautiful young woman?" And the person would say yes. And he'd say a beautiful girl, typically. And it would be an underage, it would be a child. And then, they would have a tape of sex acts with the child. And then they would blackmail that person and say, we've shown, and Whitney Webb has shown this, how then this would also be used in the intelligence community. Now we have this powerful person, we have blackmail on them, so we need them to do a certain thing. And this is how Epstein had his basically fake hedge fund, that there was really no record of any trading being done on Wall Street, but there was all this money in there. And so these guys would donate it. And we've shown you ties to JP Morgan Chase and Deutsche Bank and other things like that. And we've shown you a lot of ties to Bill Gates. Bill Gates said, I barely knew Epstein. I met him once in 2011. And we've shown you that Gates has had ties to Epstein since 1997, I believe, at least far back into the 90s. So, and flight logs, he was on Epstein's plane. So now it's come out that Gates, he tried blackmailing Gates over an affair. Now, there's two things we're gonna go at the angle with this story. We're gonna go at. First, we're gonna go on what this claims to. But I always remind you, when it comes to Epstein, and the mainstream media is talking about Epstein, there's always glaring things that are not being talked about. So what this article is not going to tell you is, here's a list of all the other powerful people in Epstein's black book. This article isn't going to be screaming, how come the Department of Justice isn't have a special prosecutor assigned? And why isn't, Prince Andrew being extradited to this country? Why isn't Les Wexner indicted? Why isn't Bill Clinton and Donald Trump indicted? Why isn't Hillary Clinton indicted? Why isn't all Alan Dershowitz and all these powerful people, why aren't they all being indicted or at least questioned? So that's always the glaring thing I always need to point out to you. Sure, we'll get into how Gates, I've shown you ties to Gates over and over and over, and this will be more evidence of that. But again, Maxwell, her whole trial happened. Nobody was named. Only 4 witnesses were allowed to speak. No one's been named. No one's been named. Maxwell it was a year ago, right? She was found guilty, and her sentencing came out June, I think, of 2022. And she got moved to a minimum security prison. Again, this story is not going to be talking about why she was moved to a minimum. So, see what I'm saying? So this is great. Everyone talks, Bill Gates. I mean, we'll talk about it, but I always just have to let you put that seed in there. Hear the huge elephant in the room that they refuse to talk about. And if you remember my interview with retired child crimes investigator Eric Oldenburg on the Phoenix Police Department, and I asked him, I said, if you were leading this investigation, what would you be doing? He goes, Graham, all of these people would be brought in for questioning. He goes, this would be a 10 years of investigating and charging people and going to trial. And, He told me when we talked to him last year, he had just testified on a trial from a case from 10 years ago while he was still on, an active duty. And now here he is several years retired, and he's still testifying in this trial. And yet all these powerful people, no one is being brought to trial. It's Epstein. Oh, and he hung himself with a paper t-shirt. Maxwell, we got her. She's in prison. Don't worry. Stop asking questions. Moved her to a minimum security prison. So let's go into this, but I just remember what this article will not be discussing is all of the other powerful people, right? So here it is. This was reported in several agencies. The steady flow of new information about Jeffrey Epstein's high society context is still going strong. But no charges being brought up. It's just sort of, so it's almost being put out there like celebrity gossip, right? According to the Wall Street Journal, Epstein tried to blackmail Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates after he found out about an affair Gates had with a Russian bridge player around 2010 when he was still married to his former wife, Melinda. Now, we've shown you how Melinda Gates left Bill Gates, and she said one of the reasons they got a divorce was his ties to Epstein made her feel like she didn't like that. All this just damning evidence. Why isn't Bill Gates being investigated? Why isn't he under trial? Why isn't he under subpoena? The report states that Gates first met the woman, Mila Antonia, in 2010 when she was in her 20s and Gates was in his mid-50s. A Gates associate later introduced her to Epstein. In 2013, she met his infamous townhouse on the Upper East Side where she proposed an investment idea of $500,000 to stand up a company that would make online bridge tutorials. Well, first of all, this feels like Epstein was like set. This is how Epstein set Gates up to get information on Epstein. So Epstein set up Bill Gates to get information and have leverage over Bill Gates so that he could use Bill Gates's money and power and influence to get Epstein more money and power. This is a standard playbook for Epstein, right? Epstein passed on the offer. Oh, she proposed it to Epstein. Epstein paid her for coding classes. He paid her to be a honey trap for Bill Gates. It's pretty obvious. He paid directly to the school, and Tony told the Journal nothing was exchanged. I don't know why he did that. Gee, I don't know either. Why would he do that? Why would he pay for my... When I asked, he said something like he was wealthy and wanted to help people when he could. Right. No, he said, now you owed him. That's what that was. Remember when I paid for your school? I'm going to need you to go have sex with Bill Gates. And we're going to film it. The alleged affair remained under wraps for several years, during which Epstein and Gates continued to associate with each other until 2017, when Epstein allegedly weaponized the matter. Since 2011, Epstein had tried to set up a charitable fund at JP Morgan where Gates and other wealthy men, there's the JP Morgan Chase intersection again. And Gates just happened to, weird, wacky nuttiness. And I'm going to show you, there's this. Let me show you this. Let's just bring this in real quick, because I've shown you this before, but it very much bears, right? So here we are. So starting from the left, there's Jess Staley, CEO of JP Morgan Chase. Right next to him is Larry Summers, former Secretary of Treasury. Right in the middle there's Bill Gates. I'm sorry, there's Jeffrey Epstein. Right next to him is Bill Gates. On the far right is Bor Nikolic, who was the head of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and then also was the overseer of Epstein's trust when he died. We now have a motive for Bill Gates to want Epstein to be dead. Am I the only guy that watches cop reality TV shows? There's a motive. Why aren't everybody in this picture, 4 of the 5 members of this picture are all still alive? Why aren't they all being brought under questioning right now? Like right now. What's the DOJ doing? What are they up to? Just busy getting tax cheats or something, just arresting some homeless guy? Is that what the DOJ is doing right now? Kicking homeless people out of the park while there's billionaire sex trafficking pedophiles running loose? So just I want you to keep track. And again, I'm just going through a standard story, the Wall Street Journal. They just, JP Morgan, they don't go into the deepness of this. It's not a mistake. It's not a like, whoops, we didn't have the space and they're deliberately not showing you this photo. This photo should be front and center on these articles. These journalists and these news outlets should be screaming for these indictments and investigations and subpoenas, and at least all these people should at least be brought in for questioning, at least. They're not even mentioning it. You have to come to this channel. You have to come to a surfing comedian who's been demonetized by YouTube, by the way, because I talk about Epstein. I'm on our 3rd year demonetization, guys. 3 years I've been demonetized. See the scroll below? Those are all the ways you can support this channel. Patreon.com/Graham Elwood, Rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, Venmo. I have a P.O. box at GrahamElwood.com because no one else, the Main Street media won't bring this up. They'll talk about Epstein in these little cursory ways, like the Wall Street Journal is and everything else. And they're making it, again, doesn't this sound like celebrity gossip? Oh, a Russian model. And it's not like the most powerful people in the world were doing money laundering and sex trafficking, and we're just going to pretend that that's not a thing. Okay, cool. So let's get back to this article. Here we go. So the since 2011, Epstein had tried to set up a charitable fund at JP Morgan where Gates and other wealthy men in the circle would pay a minimum of $100 million each, and Epstein would get millions back in fees. That's part of the thing I told you about. His fund. I don't know if I want to give $100 million to your fund. Oh, well, I have a video of you having sex with a child. So, or you're cheating on your wife. So now you're going to write that check. The plan hinged on Gates backing, and in emails to JP Morgan executives like Jess Daly, who I just showed you in a photo, Epstein falsely suggested that the billionaire was on board, but Gates never joined. The firm didn't need him as a client, and JP Morgan spokesperson said, though the bank is currently being sued for allegedly enabling sex traffickers for years. And I've shown you how JP Morgan Chase is I did a whole video on that. I have an Epstein playlist, how JP Morgan Chase was trying to say, like, we didn't know. And it's like, there's all this evidence saying they knew exactly who Epstein was. There's internal emails where they're like, this is a bad idea. Their internal lawyers were like, don't do business with Epstein. And they did it anyway. So they knew who he was. They just didn't care because he was bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars. Just like when the Clintons played dumb. We didn't know. Oh, really? That's why Ghislaine Maxwell was at your daughter's wedding 2 years after she settled out of court. Also bringing into the timeline here of 2011, since 2011, what is 2011 in the Epstein timeline? Well, it's 2 years after he was indicted and served time in that country club prison in Florida. So 2009, he was arrested in 2008 for having sex with a minor. Charged in 2009. Who was the prosecuting attorney back then in Florida? Right? Acosta. Who was then later appointed by Trump. Trump's known Epstein since the 90s. You see how it's all tied in? I just want you to see how it's all tied in. Why would Trump bring in the guy that and Acosta said he was told to go easy on Epstein because he was a CIA asset? That's a direct quote from Acosta. Right? Trump brings him in. Women were trafficked out of Mar-a-Lago. So when I hear the like QAnon crowd go, Trump was innocent. He was gonna go get Epstein. Well, why didn't he just arrest him immediately and then put a special prosecutor? And it's always if he would have got a second term, he would have, blah, 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 blah. Trump's part of the problem, just like the Clintons. Wake up. But I'm just giving you the timeline here. So JP Morgan Chase is already doing business with Epstein 2 years after he was charged with sex with a minor in Florida. Convicted, charged, convicted, sentenced. They put him in a minimum security prison, put an anklet around him, let him fly around in his plane and do god-awful stuff. But they all kept doing business with him. In 2017, Epstein emailed Gates about the Russian bridge player, requesting that he pay back the meager tuition for her coding program. The sum was immaterial for the two men, and the tone of the message was that Epstein knew about the affair and could expose it. Right. These are rich men, like paying some kids college, like $100,000 for college tuition or whatever is nothing for these guys. It's literally like, me giving you $30. A spokesperson for Gates claimed that he never made a payment to Epstein, but the account could provide some clarity as to how the man who pleaded guilty to a sex crime in 2008 managed to influence top bankers and politicians until his arrest and death in custody. Oh, yeah. Right? So this is true. That is one that, again, look at how short this little article is. But it is, what they say at the end of this article is a valid point, which it does show this is how Epstein did business. He got dirt on people and he leveraged that for money. Invest in my thing, pay this person's whatever. But let's look at this article. Who are the newly revealed Jeffrey Epstein contacts? Well, they're going to force me to pay for their thing. So this came out, today. This came out. Yeah. He was trying to set up a philanthropic fund that he hoped would include the billionaire as an anchor donor. Huh. So we're seeing several things. That's how Epstein, it's more proof of how Epstein did business. He would get leverage on powerful people and get them to donate. And again, the philanthropic thing is always a key. Like, we know that Ghislaine Maxwell had a Save the Oceans charitable blah 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 scam fund. Not to say all these charitable funds are scams, but when these awful people use them, they often are used for money laundering and scamming people and stuff like that. But again, just the big glaring, why aren't they pushing? No one else is being prosecuted. Nobody else. No one's even being brought in for questioning. Nobody else. There's a civil suit against JP Morgan Chase. That's like the most you're going to get. Like the fact that Prince Andrew hasn't been brought back to this country in cuffs. So Prince Andrew can do what he wants. Julian Assange, a publisher, is in Belmarsh prison. But Prince Andrew, there's photos of him with an underage, with a child. Unreal. This is how they cover it up. But I stay on this story, and I can only stay on the story with your help. So please support our show in any way that you can. This is the People's Channel. You're the best and smartest audience in the world. Go to GrahamElwood.com. There's merchandise there. That's another great way to support the show. You get that logo on stuff. And you get it on a coffee mug and cool stuff like that. Wake up every morning with a hot cup of truth. And support us at Patreon, where you get bonus content. You get live access to the live feeds, because those are always done and go behind a paywall afterwards. And sign up for our newsletter at GrahamElwood.com. It's free. You get a free vegan smoothie recipe. And when you sign up for the newsletter, then the social media companies can't throttle me. Because when you follow me on social media, which I do that, please do that. But they can not notify you, they can censor me, they can do all this stuff. If you just give me an email address, and please put your zip code in there, because then I can email you when I'm coming to your area to do live shows. Then we have direct access with each other, guys, and we don't have to worry about the tech companies getting in the way. So that's my pitch on the newsletter. Thanks for watching, everybody. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth, and shave your knuckles for justice. And that's how we're going to make Gotham great again. Boom. Boom. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. We are still in our ninth month of demonetization from YouTube. So support what we're doing at patreon.com/Graham Elwood or rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, which is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. It's free to sign up, and there's a premium level at $10 a month. And for that, you get everybody on the platform's premium content. Myself, Lee Camp, Ron Placone, Jimmy Dore, Whitney Webb, Kim Iverson, Abby Martin, and many, many others. You can also support what we're doing at Venmo at Graham-Elwood and go to GrahamElwood.com. We have a PayPal button and a PO box. I also have crypto wallets, which are all in the show notes. Thanks for supporting what we do.